Chair, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our regular Wednesday, January 10th, 2024 LAFCO meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Commissioners. So we'll start with Commissioner Jim Anderson. Present. Commissioner Roger Anderson. Chair Yvette Brooks.
Here.
Commissioner Justin Cummings. Here. Commissioner Zach Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Rochelle Lather.
Here.
Commissioner Alan Timms.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Ed Banks.
Here.
Vice Chair John Hunt.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Manu Koenig.
Here.
And alternate Commissioner Shebra Kalantari Johnson, and she is absent. Madam Chair, we do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. This brings us to item 2, our executive officer's message, item A, hybrid meeting process.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to our first LAFCO meeting of 2024. We are in the Watsonville City Chambers, very high tech, as you can see, with the digital nameplates. And as for your microphones, you have complete control. One key thing to notice, if on your microphone, that means if you have it green, that means you are able to, everyone else can able to hear you. So that's one clear distinction. Under state law, if commissioners are required to be in person unless you're sick, staff and legal counsel have the option to join us virtually or in person. We have our legal counsel here today in person who will be conducting a closed session later in the agenda. For the general public, they have the option of joining us virtually or in person. If any of members of the public would like to speak on any agenda item, they'll have up to 3 minutes. For them joining us on Zoom, if they can raise their hand by pressing *9 on their phone or clicking on the raise hand icon on the Zoom platform. We'll acknowledge them, let them know that they have 3 minutes. We'll let them know when they have 1 minute left and then when their time is up. And since we are back to in-person meetings, we won't do a voice vote. We won't do a roll call vote. It'll just be a voice vote unless the chair decides under her discretion. Madam Chair, that concludes my quick summary of the virtual hybrid meeting process. And we have one more item under Executive Officer's message, and that is giving the commissioners an update on a shared services collaborative approach that several LAFCOs and yours truly is currently working on. And that is perhaps doing a joint RFP, a request for proposal to hire a auditing firm to do audits for our LAFCOs. That's something that's been on my to-do list to bring this to the commission for consideration. As you can see, there are 7 LAFCOs in total that we like to do a cost-sharing agreement. So we are working on a draft RFP. We'll bring this to the commission in either February or March for official action, but that's something that your staff has been working on, finding ways to save money and find ways to collaborate with other LAFCOs. I think that's something that we strive for. So that is, again, another update to this commission. No action is required at this time, and Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Please.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, can you repeat the question?
And have they been approached as part of this effort?
Yeah, so we actually reached out to all the LAFCOs throughout the state and offering them the opportunity to join. The other 6 that are listed on your screen were the ones that were interested. Okay. I believe Monterey LAFCO is currently under contract with their auditing firm, but that's something that if they would like to join in the future, that's something that we'll more than be happy to include them. But these are the 7 LAFCOs that are interested at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll move on to adoption of minutes. Any questions from the audience? We'll bring this back for a vote.
I'll move the recommended actions.
We have a first
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? This item passes. We'll move on to item 4, oral communications. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address us on items that are not on this morning's agenda. Good morning.
Good morning. Had to wait for the green light. Thank you. My name is Becky Steinbrunner. This is a very nice facility. I like it. I want to address your commission by first off noting that I did submit written correspondence asking that there be a report about the final dissolution of Brenta 40 Fire District. I do not see that on the agenda, so I'll speak about it now. The Brenta 40 Fire Station was closed, unstaffed now on December 8th. What I would like as a member of the public is to hear about how the discrepancies in CalPERS and benefits were adjusted. And I hope that that is reported this morning. Also in correspondence, you have a letter from me stating that I recognize that having now served the Scotts Valley Fire District that includes the dissolved Brenta 40 Fire District, with notice that I intend to sue if they do not take action to transition to district-based elections from their current at-large elections. After doing some research, further legal research, I see that there is now, because of this notice, a 45-day safe harbor, and that is what I have included to LAFCO in this letter. And I do intend to take this action. And here's why. The Brenta 40 Fire Advisory Commission, which was graciously allowed to help advise on how their Measure T money and their property tax money that is now all going into Scotts Valley will be used. Measure T has
1
some
minute
very,
left.
sorry.
1 minute left.
Thank you. Measure T has some very specific language as to how that money can be spent. And now it's all just being absorbed by Scotts Valley. And the commission is supposed to be guiding how that is spent. They only received 4 applications out of 5 possible. The Scotts Valley Fire District Board will be approving those 4 commissioners tonight. But that's, to me, speaks that the Branta 40 Fire District residents have lost their voice in all of this, and that concerns me greatly. And that is why I, with partners in the former Branta 40 Fire District, will take this legal action to press to have a better level of representation with district-based elections. I also, on another topic, want to let you know that recently
Time's up, Ms. Becky.
the Mid-County Groundwater Agency Basin was deemed as doing pretty well by Georgina King at Montgomery and Associates. That's a bit of good news.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Becky.
Okay, do we have any other members of the audience or anyone online?
1 second. We do not see any hands raised at this time.
Okay, great. We'll move on to item 5, our public hearings. 5A RTC parcel annexation. I'll pass this over to staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff received an application from the Regional Transportation Commission of Santa Cruz County for a parcel that they own. They're proposing to develop a rest stop that will include parking and a restroom facility. As part of that project, they need water and sewer. So they submitted an application to annex into the Davenport County Sanitation District for those services. Again, this is involving a single parcel owned by RTC. It's approximately 6 acres. The county has submitted a will-serve letter indicating that they're willing and capable of providing services to this parcel that's immediately adjacent to their jurisdictional boundary. This annexation, if it's approved by the commission, will include a sphere amendment to reflect the annexation area. That way there is a consistency with the jurisdictional and sphere boundaries. I will note that there is an existing ESA that's also being, that's active involving the Davenport Sanitation District and the Cemex property. That has been in place for almost 2 decades now. And as part of this application, we reached out to Cemex to see if they were interested in annexation. It wouldn't change anything that's happening, but it would discontinue the ESA and officially add that parcel into the district. After several discussions of explaining what an annexation is, what an ESA is, what LAFCO is all about, they thought about it, but they decided not to move forward with the annexation as part of this application, which is fine. LAFCO is not here to force a boundary change on any landowner, but we did clarify to the Cemex representatives that in the future, if they do want to be annexed, they would have to have their own separate application. So this was an opportunity to kind of piggyback, but they declined. So going back to the original parcel owned by RTC, it's consistent with the county's land use designation. It is consistent with LAFCO's policies and state law when it comes to annexations of this type. So therefore, staff is recommending that the commission approve this annexation by adopting the draft resolution. And Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from our commissioners?
Did I turn it on? Okay. Can I see the will serve letter? I forgot my iPad, so.
I don't have a copy of the will serve letter
Oh.
here.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
I don't have a problem. You know, I was in charge of Davenport's sewer and water before. I wondered if RTC plans on paying their annual service charges, or are they exempt? Because some agencies end up being exempt, and that would really hurt Davenport. So that was a question I had, but because I know Caltrans doesn't pay, you know, fees for a lot of things. And
That's a good point. So as part of the terms and conditions in the LAFCO resolution, we identify that any fees, costs associated to the connection is subject to the landowner. The county has not identified any exemptions. I recall in the will serve letter, there's no indication of exemptions identified. But they did make it clear that if they wanted to receive services from that district, they would need to get annexation approval from LAFCO. But in that letter, there was no indication of exemptions.
I guess Mr. Cummings here could keep an eye out for that in the future, because that's a real concern. I know that they pay very high rates. And it would be helpful to them if this includes paying rates, but I just wanted to bring that up. And we can't force CMEX to annex?
We cannot.
Darn.
We cannot. I did my best to encourage them. But yeah, this would have been a great opportunity to get a 2-for-1, but
Yeah.
but I understand their reasons for not going through an annexation if they already have an ESA in place. But that's something that LAFCO's not going to let go. We now have a working relationship with them, and I think in the future they may come around.
Well, that's great. Somebody answered the phone.
It took a while. Francisco and I were calling different states to find someone, and we were actually able to find someone in Orange County that
Oh,
represents CEMEX.
You didn't have to go to Mexico, huh?
We did not have to go to Mexico, but that was
Yeah, I
Francisco's
mean,
next stop.
I've been in that place, so, okay. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're clear about making sure that they pay their annual fees and the connection fee.
Okay.
Please.
I'm wondering about public support for this project. I know that that parcel has been used for a variety of informal uses like the CZU fire recovery encampment, and I know it's been both a public service and a public nuisance in various ways. And do you have any indication of public support from the commercial and residential folks around Davenport?
I have not heard any support or opposition towards this particular project. Specifically, when it comes to this annexation, I did not receive any concerns or comments in general.
I can actually speak to this. I was gonna save my comments till after the public comment, but I can just comment now that folks in Davenport have really been interested in the improvements that would come with this parking lot, and they've actually been really requesting that a toilet be placed there. They've had issues with people kind of just defecating like in the parking lot, and with visitors coming and not having access to a bathroom. They see this as a real benefit to them. So we haven't heard much opposition. We've only heard support from the community on this project. And so really just want to thank you all for bringing this forward and for your hard work on this. I know that our North Coast Facilities Management Plan is going to be getting approved, and that will allow us to start moving forward with applications for funding with the Coastal Conservancy. And so we're really going to start working on these projects in the near future. So this will be a really tremendous help with us being able to kind of expedite this as one of the projects. And then to Commissioner Lather's comment, I think it would be good for us to follow up on the fee schedule and who's going to pay that. And then it would be great to find out who your contact is at CEMEX, because we have not been able to get in touch with them for over a year. And so if you guys made an end, then we're going to try to follow that path.
I made sure that I had her title, her direct number, and her email. So I'm more than happy to share that with.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll accept questions or comments from the audience. We'll start with online.
Madam Chair, we do have a request, and this is actually a representative from RTC, Ms. Grace Blakesley. So I'm going to ask her to unmute herself.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to thank your staff for bringing this item before you. This project that we call the North Coast Trail Project is a 7.5-mile trail from between between Wilder and Davenport, and includes the construction of 2 parking lots. To respond to some of the comments that I heard, this project has significant public support. We have worked very closely with the Davenport residents in developing this project over the last 6 years. The project is set to go out to bid this week with over $38 million in federal funding, and matched by local private and Measure D taxpayer funds. In terms of the fees, we understand that we are subject to the connection fees and the annual fees associated with the sanitation use. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Grace.
Thank you. Anyone in our audience who'd like to speak?
Thank you, Becky Steinbrenner. I was curious as to why CEMEX was so opposed to formally annexing. It seemed like a real opportunity for them. As I read it, the fees would even be waived to do so, which are substantial. So can you offer any insight to the public and the commission as to why CEMEX is opposed to annexing formally with this? And they are receiving service from the sanitation district. Can you confirm that? And they are paying fees for that service at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, would you like to hear the response? Is there a question? Okay, please, Mr. Serrano, if you'd like to respond.
Sure. When we spoke with the representative from CEMEX, it went through their chain of command. It went to their legal counsel, and at the end of the day, they didn't see a benefit. They didn't see, it wouldn't change anything. So why would we go through the annexation? Which is why now this commission and LAFCO, when we approve ESAs, we have language that leads to annexation in the near future. And that's something that we're preventing that situation from happening going forward. But going back to the original question, they decided that they didn't see a benefit for annexation, and that was their decision. And LAFCO wasn't going to try to figure out another way to persuade them. We did everything we could to explain the intent and the benefits of going through being part of this annexation, but they decided not to move forward.
Great, thank you. So I'll bring this back to our commissioners to adopt the draft resolution number 2024-01, approving the single parcel annexation into the Davenport SD.
I'll move recommended.
We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, this item passes. We'll move on to item B, the service and sphere review of County Service Area 38. Mr. Serrano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. CSA 38 provides extended police protection to the unincorporated areas of the county, so everything that's outside the 4 cities. Typically, when we do service reviews, the staff does a deep dive of the agency's history, its purpose, its financial health, the level of service, its operations, its staffing, et cetera. However, LAFCO could not complete that type of analysis for CSA 38 because there is no information out there about CSA 38. And that's something that was very concerning for LAFCO staff. CSA 38 is, well, stepping back, police protection in unincorporated areas are through the sheriff department. CSA 38 is a funding mechanism. It helps them fund that type of service. However, when you look at CSA 11, which is county parks, they're one and the same. When you go to County Parks website, there is information about CSA 11. There's financial information. There's information about how County Parks and CSA 11 are one and the same. You don't see that with CSA 38 and the Sheriff Department. There is no reference of CSA 38. LAFCO is able to find financial information when we comb through the county's comprehensive audits, and we were able to get some information, but that was about it. And LAFCO is aware of CSA 38 because that's our environment, that's our work, that's our job. But for a regular person, they have no idea the purpose and the intent of CSA 38. With that being said, I provided a draft copy of my analysis to the county, and I expressed my concerns about the lack of information. And this is not a malicious intent from the county of hiding information. It's just that it wasn't brought to their attention of this information needs to be available to the public. So we coordinated with the county and they agreed that we need to improve this. We need to address this issue. And so LAFCO and the county agreed that we'll give them 12 months to provide information about CSA 38 history, any agendas or minutes, any financial information, their budgets, audits, information that should be accessible to the public, not just for LAFCO. And they agreed that within 12 months, they'll provide that information and have it accessible either on a standalone county webpage or as part of the Sheriff's Department's webpage. So I really appreciate the county's express an understanding of the situation and being able to find a way to find a solution. I appreciate the Sheriff Jim Hart for being able to speak with LAFCO and understand what's going on and being open to finding a solution. So with all that being said, staff is recommending that we reaffirm their sphere and approve this simplified service review with one condition, that they address this concern, this issue, no later than January 30th of 2025. So we're giving them 12 months. If it's not addressed, if they do not fulfill the recommendation and findings that LAFCO has identified, then this commission should consider dissolution. The intent here is if CSA 38 is still needed and still has a purpose, it needs to be available for the public to understand. If not, then it should be dissolved. So that is something that the county agreed upon. And so that is something that's being presented to the commission for approval. Again, it's approving this service review, indicating that it is exempt from CEQA, and approving the resolution, which reaffirms their sphere with the condition that they'll address this issue within the next 12 months. And then in February or March, we'll bring this back up for either commission action or reaffirming their sphere at that time. So with that being said, Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
So what you're saying is you're not able to see the revenue that 38 generates for the county?
We were able to retrieve that they're collecting property taxes, which is 99% of CSA 38's budget. And we were also able to determine their total expenditures, which was practically virtually identical from their revenues, which is, I believe, and Josh, you can correct me, it's like less than $1 million being collected annually for CSA 38. But that's it. We don't have a breakdown of the property taxes or any assessments. There is no breakdown. This was just the minimal information that we were able to retrieve in the county's audited financial statements.
Thank you.
Justin?
Yeah, I just wanted to better understand what are the impacts if no action were to be taken and the CSA were to be dissolved, what impact would that have?
Great question. So again, Santa Cruz County has the Sheriff Department, which is responsible for providing police protection in unincorporated areas. CSA 38 is a funding mechanism. The intent was to provide additional funds to the Sheriff Department to provide this service. So hypothetically, if this commission decides to dissolve CSA 38, we, as part of the terms and conditions, can indicate that X amount of money that's being collected from CSA 38 will be transferred over to the Sheriff Department as a successor agency. So that funding will not go away, but CSA 38, which is that special district, will no longer exist. Does that change the level of service? Absolutely not. The level of service will remain the same because the Sheriff Department will continue providing police protection in the unincorporated areas. The only difference is CSA 38 will no longer be in existence. The funds that were being collected are now going to just be under the Sheriff Department. Again, hypothetically, if that were to occur.
What's confusing to me is whether or not they have been raising their rates and doing, okay, I see, no.
No, it's my understanding,
it's just been the
it's been
same-
a constant collection throughout the year since it was formed back in the 80s, 90s.
It would be nice for them to raise the rates, but okay. Okay, that's interesting.
Go ahead and turn your mic on. Well, thanks.
Question I have is, what fraction of the sheriff's budget comes from CSA 38 at the present time?
It represents less than 1% of their entire budget for the Sheriff Department. It's not significant in amount.
Okay. Now, is the sheriff's department have complete transparency as far as LAFCO is concerned?
So great question. So the Sheriff Department is under the county's umbrella. So LAFCO did not analyze the Sheriff Department because that's not a special district under our purview. That being said, their website, the Sheriff Department's webpage, it has an array of information where it's very transparent regarding the entire department, their financial statements, their budgets, the level of services, the number of stations that they have, et cetera. That information is available for the public. There's no issues with that. But CSA 38 is a completely different entity. It's a special district, just like a water district or a fire district. The only difference is it's being managed by the county.
So it's about 1% of the budget. If it were to go to no funding, some other source would have to be found to supplant that at the
Correct.
sheriff's office.
Correct.
Now, the other question is, has there been any historical review of either CSA 38 or its connection with the county?
So we do have a service review that was conducted for CSA 38 that was done 5 or 6 years ago, but it was only like 4 or 5 pages. There was no analysis done. It was more of a checklist of, do you want to change your sphere? Yes or no? And that was it. So there was no extensive evaluation for CSA 38. So that's why our service reviews since 2019 have done a great deep dive to tell the whole story of it. So to answer your question, yes, there's a service review for CSA 38, but it did not provide any information.
Thank you.
I mean, maybe this is obvious, but this is a very minor thing, very procedural in basis, and so I appreciate the discussion, but at the end of the day, it sounds like these are very reasonable recommendations to just provide a little bit of illumination of what CSA 38 does, and county seems open to it, and we just move forward.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, do we have any questions on Zoom?
1 second, Chair. We do not see any hands raised at this time.
Any from our audience?
Thank you, Becky Steinbrenner. Thank you for this report, Mr. Serrano. It's troubling to me as a member of the public. And it caused me to look at our own property tax bills to see how much each property parcel is paying. It's not listed. CSA 38 is not listed on our property tax bills. And, you know, interestingly enough, neither is CSA 11. It's only listed as the county parks parcel tax. So as a taxpayer, I'm concerned that this money is almost $3 million every year coming to the sheriff's department with no accountability, no transparency, and we're not sure how much we're paying for it to amass this amount of money. And we're not sure, although I'm confident it's being put to good use, but exactly how is it being spent? So I want to thank you again for doing this analysis and bringing it to the attention of the commission and the public. And, you know, right now the county is going for another 0.5-cent sales increase. And part of what that's supposed to go to is better public service, public protection, safety. But how can we have any confidence in how the county is administering money like intended sales taxes when we have no information at all about a substantial amount of money like this under County Service Area 38? I would like to see the incorporation papers for this, the formation papers. I didn't see that included in the document, in the report. What exactly, is there a specific use that is supposed to be? Is it for funding facilities, for funding patrols? And how is that being met if it is at all? So thank you again for this report. I look forward to seeing the improvements in transparency with the Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Good morning.
Sorry, I'm just going to speak for a minute, even though I told Joe I wouldn't. Melody Sereno, Deputy County Administrative Officer for the County of Santa Cruz. I was also the analyst for the sheriff's budget for probably about 12 years. I can tell you that the way that the CSA funds come into the budget is a straight, a transfer in from the property tax, and then those funds are used to fund primarily public patrol in the unincorporated area. So let's think about the cost of a sheriff's deputy is about $250,000 a year. And so we've got about $3 million coming in from the CSA 38. And we have patrols that are 12 service areas of patrols, 2-man patrols, 24 hours a day. So just count that up in your mind and you can see that the amount for funding patrols is a significant amount of money. The sheriff's budget, I think right now, is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $53 million. And so the $3 million helps to fund the patrols. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Melody. And that exactly right there. The county has the information. It's just putting it on paper, having it accessible on their webpage or on a website. Again, that information is available and I really appreciate you bringing that up. All we have to do is acknowledge it in writing and have it accessible for the public. And I know the information's there. So the county's working on it and I really appreciate their efforts in being more transparent.
Great. Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Madam Chair, just for clarification, who was the second?
Roger this way.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 6, other business. This is item A, appoint new chair and vice chair.
Madam Chair, the next couple agenda items is going to be a speed round, so it's very straightforward. Every year in January, we select a new chair and vice chair. There's no formal rotation Historically, you can see in your staff report, the vice chair becomes the chair. But again, it's in the discretion of the commission. So staff is recommending that the commission discuss who will be our chair and vice chair for 2024. This will be the last meeting that Ms. Yvette Brooks will be chairing. I do want to extend my appreciation for her leadership. We accomplished a lot in 2023, and I appreciate your leadership throughout that whole year. So thank you very much. But again, staff is recommending that the commission select a chair and vice chair for the remainder of the 2024 calendar year. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a nomination and first acknowledge the outstanding work over the last year. You've done a great job as our Madam Chair for the year, and I think that it would be appropriate to have our Vice Chair, John Hunt, nominated as Chair, and I've recognized by looking at the list, it's been quite some time since the county's been in a leadership role here, so I'd like to nominate Director or Supervisor Koenig as the Vice Chair for the coming year.
Great. Any comments or questions?
I'm just gonna second it. There's a need for that right now.
Okay. Any public comments?
One comment that our legal counsel brought up is that at this point, that would be two alternate commissioners being the chair and vice chair. I will note that something that we're going to talk about in the next item or two is Supervisor Koenig, you're up for reelection and your term on LAFCO ends in May. So as long as you are with us for the next 4 years, that'd be great. But again, just for clarification for the commission, that would be two alternates and they would not be able to vote on items unless the regular seat is not at the meeting. And Josh, if you have additional.
The other just potential consideration is generally alternates don't attend closed session per our policies. So not having the chair or vice chair in some of those closed sessions, something the commission may wish to consider.
Well, I'd like to just sort of raise a couple issues here. I appreciate that information. I'll say that I don't understand why they couldn't be in closed session. That's an internal policy, then we should address that. I mean, that's obviously not a legal issue. And so we should modify that. The chair doesn't make motions anyway. I don't see any significant component with that. I'm not really concerned with this. If the commission is particularly concerned, then we can have, I guess it would, to me, it'd be a separate vice chair. But to me, I think that this is, actually, I don't really have a particular issue with how this is currently slated.
And just for clarification, I don't believe that our policy restricts our alternates being part of the closed session. I think we amended that in the past. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but our policies allow alternate commissioners to be part of the closed session. Just for clarification. Correct.
Well, the Board of Supervisors is also going to be considering some changes to appointments, so perhaps you and I could switch, Supervisor Koenig, as to who the alternate member is and who the regular member is. Maybe that would solve some issues of concern from legal counsel in a couple weeks.
Okay. Any Zoom comments or questions?
Madam Chair, we do not see any hands raised at this time.
Any from our audience? Seeing none, I'll bring this back to our commissioners.
I'd have one question.
Please.
And I was actually gonna make that suggestion as well, that the board right now is considering appointments to commissions. And so thanks for bringing that up, because that is an option. I did want some clarification though on I guess you had mentioned that Supervisor Koenig's appointment ends in May. Is that because his district is done in May, or, because I remember when I was on the commission and my term ended in May and then I was off the commission. And so just wanted some clarification on that. Like, even if we were to make this change at the board level to make him a seated member, would he then be able to stay through his term?
Yeah, so as the county's considering appointments to different commissions and committees, it would be great for the Board of Supervisors to appoint Supervisor Koenig for another 4 years on LAFCO, but his current LAFCO term ends in May of this year.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Manu? Do you have anything to say?
Sure, just honored by my colleagues' confidence and happy to serve as vice chair, whether or not I get to cast a vote, but I think we can easily address that issue.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to item B. Congratulations. Do I get to finish this meeting?
Yes, you can.
Okay, because I will. All right, so this brings us to item B, appoint new personnel committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, just quickly, based on our current policies, we have either 2 or 3 commissioners sit on our personnel committee with a 2-year term. The second year term for Ms. Rochelle Lather and Roger Anderson end. So we would like, staff is requesting that the commission appoint at least 2 commissioners to be on the personnel committee for another 2-year term. Again, there is no official rotation or selection, so it's in the discretion of the commission. It may be helpful to have the current chair or the former chair as part of the personnel committee, but again, that is up to the commissions. And Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Please.
I think it's important, if Roger's willing to stay on, since that continuity is very important. And if we just want to add it, and then Ms. Lather, if you are as well, I don't know, Chairwoman, Madam Chairwoman, if you'd be interested in being the 3rd person on this, and if so, I think that we could make that as the nomination for the Personnel Committee.
I believe we're going to have some rotation as well that I might not be on LAFCO. So that's not an option, but please.
Well, I will say to Zach's point, we have kept one of the 2 existing ones for continuity purposes from year to year. So, I mean, I think that's an important.
All right, well, I also notice Alan's been really quiet at the end, so we should probably put him on the committee. And that's what you get for sitting on the end, Mr. Timms. So
He had no choice.
would you be amenable to being the 3rd member of the Personnel Committee?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, so my nomination then would be for Roger Anderson, Rochelle Lather, and Alan Timms as the Personnel Committee.
Okay, we have a first
I'll second.
and a second. Any comments on Zoom?
Madam Chair, I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Any from the audience? All right, we'll bring this back. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. This brings us to item C, our upcoming the LAFCO seat vacancy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we were alluding, there may be some changes to this commission's board. First, we briefly touched that Supervisor Koenig's term on LAFCO ends in May of this year. Now, the Board of Supervisors can appoint Mona to be an alternate or regular for another 4-year term. That's, on the discretion of the Board of Supervisors. Another thing is that in May of this year as well, the term limits of alternate Commissioner John Hunt and regular Commissioner Roger Anderson, their terms end in May of this year. Under state law, LAFCO is required to advertise the vacancies of the public member seats in a local newspaper. That is, the draft notice is an attachment to the staff report. If approved, then we will have that notice published next Monday, and the residents of Santa Cruz County who are interested can submit their applications, and they'll have just over 30 days to submit an application. Now, there's 2 criteria to be eligible for a public seat. One is you have to be a resident of Santa Cruz County. Second is you cannot be an elected official in a city or a special district board. But other than that, then anyone in the county can be eligible for the public, regular, and alternate seat. The goal is to have an update to the commission in March and determine whether or not we need an interview. But ideally, we want to have those 2 members be seated at the May 1st meeting of this year. And lastly, as this commission recalls, the City Selection Committee adopted a new rotation schedule for the 4 cities to have equal representation on LAFCO. Under this new schedule, the cities of Santa Cruz and Watsonville will have a regular and alternate seat, and every 2 years, they'll switch off back and forth. For Capitola and Scotts Valley, they'll share the other regular seat, and they'll switch off and on every 2 years. So that was approved last year, but they never indicated when it was going to go into effect. Now, LAFCO's interpretation was, well, everyone's city reps, their seats are going to end around 2027, so that's when this new rotation will start. And that was not the intent of the cities. They wanted that to be effective yesterday. So we coordinated with the city selection committee, and they are going to take action on when it's going to go into effect and who those representatives are going to be. Is Scotts Valley or Capitola going to be off this year, or they're going to be on? And who's going to be representatives from Santa Cruz and from Watsonville? So those questions need to be answered by the city selection committee. LAFCO has no direction or authority to make those decisions. So once they take action, we'll then bring it back to the commission as an update, and then we may or may not have new city reps on LAFCO. So that's a quick update on the potential seat vacancies and potential changes. And Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Please.
If memory serves me right, Roger's position is at-large public member, so he's that replacement selected by the commission here.
You're absolutely right. The alternate and regular public member seats are appointed by this commission. So once we get the applications, we'll bring it to the commission, and then you decide who's going to be a regular and alternate public member.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So the recommended action is to discuss the upcoming vacancies and direct the executive officer to begin the selection process and advertise the upcoming public seat openings. Any questions on Zoom or comments?
Madam Chair, we do not see any hands raised at this time.
Okay, from our audience?
Thank you. This is an interesting discussion. My name is Becky Steinbrunner, and I am hopeful that the city selection committee will have public meetings. I think we all remember the expose that occurred thanks to local reporter Christopher Neely, that committee had been meeting in restaurants and all manner of places without public notice. So I'm hoping that their level of transparency has improved. And I look forward to their decision. I have one question for the director and commission, is that if Supervisor Koenig is not reelected to his position, would the person who is elected then assume that position that he is assigned? Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll just, if that scenario occurs, then we would coordinate with the Board of Supervisors. They'll identify who would replace Supervisor Koenig on the LAFCO seat. So that's something that we'll coordinate with the county. Hopefully
Great.
that does not occur.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, back to you.
I'll move the recommended actions for procedural.
I'll
I'll
second. We have a first and a second from Commissioner Lather. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll move on to item D, LAFCO meeting location for the next meeting on February 7th. The recommended action is for Watsonville Chambers again.
Madam Chair, so we are scheduled to have our LAFCO meetings at the County Board of Supervisors chambers for the rest of the calendar year, except for today and our February 7th meeting. I wanted to bring this to the commission for consideration and action. If you like the setting, the arrival here, we can just have this, we already have it penciled in for February 7th, unless the commission wants to do another relocation. But the county chambers is not available on February 7th, so it's either here or a different location. So Madam Chair, staff has recommended that we just use this facility, very high tech. You know, little glitches here and there, but I think we'll be in better shape in February if the commission chooses to use this facility again. And that concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you. Please.
Yeah, I'll just say that I haven't been to Scotts Valley's chambers, but I know the other locations that would be available are much tighter than here. So I would be in favor of us coming back to Watsonville in February.
Are you talking about Capitola Chambers? Okay,
Sure.
please.
And
Sure.
Santa Cruz.
I'll just add, coming down here and granted it's, you don't have traffic coming from North County to South County, so it's a positive, but even so, just the added commute, I think, actually builds sympathy from us Mid and North County commissioners for everything that South County residents have to go through to get to meetings in North County. So I think I'm totally supportive of continuing to use this space. And it's actually so great. I mean, I was trying to figure out how to turn on my microphone here and actually, I think I was turning off your microphone
Yeah.
by accident. So
I don't
very,
know.
very
Like,
nice.
who's doing it?
Thanks.
Any Zoom comments?
Madam Chair, there's no request at this time.
Oh, we have one more comment, please.
I'm in favor of meeting here as frequently as we can. I think it was, I think just physically being here is a good thing. Driving up Riverside and seeing the installation of the pipes from the College Lake project. It's just, it's just a whole set of different activities that are going on. And I think it's good for us just to do a drive-through and nothing else, to come here. So anyway, I'm in favor.
Yeah, just to comment, I agree with that completely. And actually, I think a rotation, even if it's not for unavailability of the Board of Supervisors room, I actually think the rotation around the county is useful for the reason that it actually gets us into different parts of the county that we may not visit on a daily basis, but also I think it makes this board more accessible to people in Watsonville, people in Capitola, people in Scotts Valley potentially. So I'm in favor of this meeting, but actually it occurs to me that I think it might be a useful thing to do occasionally anyway.
Is there a fee associated with using here?
I think that there's like a $50 fee, something that's very reasonable.
Do we pay that in Santa Cruz?
For the county chambers, we don't pay a fee.
Okay, any questions from the audience? Seeing that, I'll bring this back for further comment, please.
Yeah, would be that I think we have to be sensitive to where individual items are going to impact the county. So as long as those two things are dealt with, I have no problem at all.
Any other questions? Comment?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
We have a first
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, this item passes. Move on to written correspondence.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did receive two correspondence that were briefly touched on during oral communications. We received an email from Ms. Becky Steinbrenner regarding the post reorganization and information that's accessible to the public. The certificate completion, which is a recorded document that makes the reorganization final, is available on LAFCO's website. In that certificate completion, there is documents of the CalPERS actuarial report that kind of provides all that pension information in regards to the two fire districts post reorganization. So that's accessible. We're also coordinating with Scotts Valley Fire to have a kind of a event to celebrate this reorganization. The sky did not fall on December 8th or December 9th after the reorganization, and I think it's a benefit to the community now. They have paramedic firefighters on standby if needed. And so we want to show that this was not a forced consolidation or merger. This was a unity and strength in resources. And so we'd like to host that in early 2024 at the Branson 40 fire station. So once we have more information, I'll definitely share that to the commission. The other correspondence that we received from Ms. Becky Steinbrenner that she referenced was a letter that she sent to Scotts Valley Fire in regards to potential legal action for representation on the at-large election for Scotts Valley Fire. That's something that we may bring back to this commission for discussion under closed session at the February meeting because of the potential litigation exposure. But Madam Chair, no action is required for these two items, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, let's move on to item 8, press articles during the months of October, November, and December.
There is no presentation. This is just a common practice to provide any articles of interest to the commission.
Thank you. And this will bring us to item 9. This is a commissioner's business. So the opportunity for our commissioners to comment briefly on issues not listed on today's agenda. Oh, we have those on.
Just one very brief issue. I'd just like to personally thank Chair Brooks for an amazing set of meetings, extremely well run, very efficient, and thanks for doing.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, guys. No pressure, Mr. Hunt, no pressure. This brings us to item 10, closed session. So we'll go ahead and adjourn for closed session for items listed on this morning's agenda, item A and B.
And the closed session will occur right behind this wall in their conference room, and your legal counsel, Josh Nelson, will be facilitating that discussion.
Great, thank you so much. Yes, we will return for item 11 for announcements from closed session. Thank you.
Chair, I can just let the member of the public know we don't anticipate there being reportable action.
they? Let me,
Oh, yeah, so
are they all just chatting?
I guess, I don't know if they realize that we have to.
I know. What do you guys think? Sounds ready to take over? No. Okay. Right. Welcome back, everybody. It is 10:39. And we are returning from closed session. We'll move on to item 11, announcements from closed session from our legal counsel.
Thank you, Chair. There's no reportable action out of closed session.
Thank you very much. So this brings us to item 12, adjournment. Our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024 at 9 a.m. here at the Watsonville City Council chambers. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.